What is broad consent in research? Broad consent is a type of informed consent that is used in research to obtain the agreement of participants to the use of their biological samples and health information for future research purposes. It is a relatively new concept that is gaining popularity, particularly in large-scale biobanking studies that involve the collection and storage of large amounts of biological samples and health information. Broad consent is designed to provide participants with the opportunity to make a general decision about the use of their samples and health information for future research purposes, without having to specify the particular research projects or studies that they are consenting to. This is in contrast to specific consent, which requires that participants be informed about the specific research project or study that their samples and health information will be used for and provide their explicit consent. The idea behind broad consent is to facilitate research by removing the need for researchers to seek specific consent for every new research project or study that they want to conduct. This can be particularly useful in large-scale biobanking studies that involve the collection and storage of thousands or even millions of biological samples and health information. With broad consent, participants can make a single decision about the use of their samples and health information for future research purposes, and researchers can access the samples and information without having to seek additional consent from participants. However, it is important to note that broad consent is not a blanket consent that allows researchers to use participants' samples and health information for any research purpose. Broad consent still requires that participants are provided with information about the nature and purpose of the research, the potential risks and benefits of participation, and their right to withdraw from the study at any time. Participants must also be provided with information about the measures that will be taken to protect their privacy and the confidentiality of their health information. In addition, the use of broad consent in research is subject to ethical and legal guidelines and regulations, such as those set out in the General Data Protection Regulation, that is, GDPR, and the Common Rule. These guidelines and regulations require that participants are provided with clear and concise information about the use of their samples and health information, and that they have the right to withdraw their consent at any time. One of the main benefits of broad consent is that it can facilitate research by reducing the administrative burden of seeking individual consent for every new research project or study. It can also help to ensure that the samples and health information collected in biobanking studies are available for a wide range of research purposes, which can increase the scientific value of the samples and information. However, there are also potential risks and challenges associated with the use of broad consent in research. One concern is that participants may not fully understand the nature and scope of the research that they are consenting to, which can compromise their autonomy and their right to make informed decisions about their participation. There is also the risk that the use of broad consent could lead to the misuse or exploitation of participants' samples and health information, particularly if there are inadequate safeguards in place to protect their privacy and confidentiality. Overall, the use of broad consent in research is a complex issue that requires careful consideration of the potential benefits and risks, as well as the ethical and legal guidelines and regulations that govern the use of biological samples and health information. While broad consent can facilitate research and increase the scientific value of biobanking studies, it must be implemented in a way that respects participants' autonomy, privacy, and confidentiality.